Introduction to Google Colaboratory. Please see the description for timestamps. You can jump directly to any particular topic of interest in this video. What is Google Colab? Google Colaboratory, or Colab, is a free and powerful online cloud platform that comes pre-installed with Python. It offers options to increase processing resources, enabling Colab to handle machine learning, data science, and other resource-intense applications. Recent updates makes Colab particularly well-suited for learning Python. All you need is a browser and a Google account. My name is Dele Oke, and I'm going to be your instructor for this course. Python is one of the most popular programming languages in the world for a reason. It is used for web development, data science, automations, AI, and much more. Python is not only versatile, but also easy to learn. Requirements for opening a Colab account. All that is required to use Google Colab is a Google account, such as Gmail. This makes it ideal for students, those new to Python, and even experienced programmers. An overview of the Colab setup. Point your browser to colab.google and you arrive at this page. Once you get here, let's open up Colab. Here you have what is, in effect, the welcome screen for Google Colab. And you've got these 5 tabs on the side. Example, which are some of the examples that they've given to you. Recent, there's a recent files that you've opened. Google Drive, yes, all your Colab files are saved to your Google Drive. So these are the files that you've got on your Google Drive. If you have any there, that's where you'll see them. Then GitHub, you can save your files to GitHub, and you can also upload files directly. Let's create a Colab notebook. You click on here, new notebook, and a notebook in Google Colab is like a folder where you will keep all your information. And so each time you are making work, you do need to open up a new notebook. Notebooks end in the extension IPYNB, which stands for Interactive Python Notebook. And you can see that up here. The file here, as you can see, is untitled, but you could give that a name, and I would recommend that you do. I am going to call this my example. Click anywhere on the screen, and now you have got your notebook all nicely set up. Now, in Google Colab, you have 2 types of cells: code cells and text cells. Let's start looking at code cells. Here you have a code cell. A code cell is where you enter in your code, your Python code. So if I were to put in this code now, I'm going to say Python -- version. Now notice before Python there, I've got an exclamation mark. You need that in Google Colab to run your version checker. And if I were to run this now by clicking this little tab, it would tell me what version of Python is being run. The first time you click that tab, it will take a while to run. So here you see I've got Python version 3.10.12. So here's where your code goes. Now, that comes up, you can leave that there. If I was to run this again, it would simply overwrite that. But if you wanted to clear that, you could either come down here and do clear output, and that goes. I'm going to run that again. If I were to clear it, I could also click here and do clear outputs. So here's where you put your code. Inside this little tab, you can put several pieces of code. So I'm going to put a comment tag here, and I'm going to say a simple variable, and then let's make a variable called my name, and I am going to print that to screen, and I'm going to make another variable again. I'm going to call it my number, and I'm going to print that to screen. So what I've got here now is a whole series of variables. Got 2 variables, and I've got print statements under them, and I've also got a line of code which is going to tell me what version of Python is being run. Now, I can run this simply by clicking here, and all the items in the cells are run. One of the good things about Google Colab is that you can run individual lines within a cell. Now, this is something that you couldn't do on most desktop applications. So, for example, if I just wanted to run this part, now there's two ways I can do it. I can either go to Runtime and I can click on Run Selection, and then notice it only runs that line. That's one way of doing it. Now, let me just clear this again. Or I could highlight the ones I want to run, right-click, and Run Selection. So that makes it very handy indeed. Now, you notice in my version of Colab here, I have got the numbers on. You may not have that on yours. If you do want to turn on the numbers, which is very handy, come up to this little club up here where it says Open Settings and go to Editor. And there, under Editor, you have, if you scroll down, you will see Show Line Numbers. Now, if I was just to turn that off, just to demonstrate to you, now you see the line numbers are not showing. That's what your platform might look like now. I'm going to go back. I'm going to come back to Editor, go down to Show Line Numbers and save. And now when I run this again, you can see the line numbers are running. Okay, so that makes it handy to have that turned on. So just a quick brief look at code cells. Let's clear what we have here. I also want to show you how you can hide. Now, there are two ways you can hide a cell. Now, the old way used to be to type in at the top of your cell. Up in here, you would type in percentage capture. And then when you hide the cell, the code of the cell will not be seen to run. But that's an old way of doing it. You will still see some of that in some of my tutorials as we continue along. But a more recent way, and which is, in my opinion, much more efficient, is if you simply have a comment tag here with the @ sign and title. Now, you don't necessarily need to put the @ sign and the title there, but I'll show you why I'm putting it there in a moment. And now you can simply go on to View and Hide. And so the code there is hidden. And when you click on Show, it shows your code. And then you can go back and you can hide it again. So that's a more efficient way. The reason why I put the @title there is because the title allows you to give your cell a title. So if I was to come back in here where it's got @title, and I'm going to say a simple code cell. Okay. And now you can see if I come up here and hide, there we are. So that gives your cells a title. And you can imagine when this page is full of code, that makes it much more easier to navigate around. Now, I've been clicking on the menu bar here. If for any reason you don't see your menu bar or your menu bar disappears, see this little tab over here? I click on that. It's now disappeared. I click on that again. It has now reappeared. So if your menu bar disappears, don't panic. Well, that's it about code cells. By the way, you can open code cells in various ways. Notice up here, I've got code. If I click on that, I get a new code cell, or simply by rolling your mouse over any cell that is open, you will see the code cell tab appear. And if I click on that, it will also generate a code cell. You can also have a text cell. Text cells are where you put text. And again, you can open them in the same way. You've got up here, text cell, or if you roll over here, you also get text cell. I'm going to click on that one, a text cell. And a text cell is where you put text. In Google Colab, your text is put down as Markdown. Markdown is a coding language, very easy to use, and it's used a lot by programmers to keep notes. And there are a few tags there that you can use to make your text look much neater. So, for example, if I put the hash sign, that makes it a heading text. And I'm going to say, use your cells generously. because you can use cells to take notes. And you've also, of course, you've got code cells for writing code and text cells for taking notes. And there you have got your text, which appears within your cell. So that's what makes Google Colab quite unique, in that you can have your text and you can have your programming all together in one document. Hence the reason why it is called an interactive document. Okay, now there's other ways that you can also create code in Google Colab. It must be noted, however, that everything I have put into this notebook will be saved as my example inside my Google Drive. On the other hand, if you were to make an individual file, and notice what I'm going to do here, I click on this little tab here where it says Files, and the files that I have will appear here. Now, these files here come pre-installed in Google Colab, so you should have those ones there. Any file that you create here will be removed once the session ends. Okay, so the files that you create here will not be saved. You can download them onto your hard drive. I advise that you do. Or you can load your Google Drive into this area. Then you can load them directly into your Google Drive, which is even much more efficient. To create a file here, I'm simply going to right click and I'm going to go to New File. And I'm going to call this file hello.py. When making a file for Python, it should end in the extension py. So there we have the file. Now to open that file, I can simply double click. And there we are. It opens over to the side here. And let's make something simple here. I am going to say, I'm going to make a simple variable. I'm going to call it greetings. And the value of my greetings is going to be welcome to Python. And on the next line, I am going to write a print statement, which is going to print that variable to the page. There we are. Now notice that there is a star in front of this file, and that is telling you that this file has not yet been saved. It will be saved in a few seconds, although if I click up here, that would save it straight away. So if you click up here, it saves it straight away. Otherwise, if there's a star there, it has not yet been saved. And after a few seconds, it will save. Okay, so coming back, if we now want to run this file, you go to a new code cell and you put in %run, followed by a space, followed by the file you want to run, which is hello.py. There we are, and run. There we are, welcome to Python. Just to show you that, if I were to come in here and I'm going to say, welcome to Python, it is fun. Okay, and let's save that. Now, if I were to run this again, welcome to Python, it is fun. But as I mentioned earlier on, any file that you put here will not be saved to your Google Drive. What you can do, however, is to mount your Google Drive here. So all your Google Drive files will show here inside a folder called content. And how you do that is, now let me just close this tab here. I'm going to say close tab. Good. Got back to space. Now, what you can do is you can mount your Google Drive. And you see that little tab there that says Mount Drive? If you click on that, and it's now asking you, do you want to mount your drive? If you mount your drive will appear there, and then you can save your files directly onto your Google Drive. Now, I don't want to do that now, so I'm going to say no thanks. And also what you see come up here now, notice this little tab that has come up. Let me just dismiss this. Okay, so here there's a piece of code, which if you run it, it would also mount your Google Drive. into this area. So you could literally type this code in here, run it, and your Google Drive would be mounted up in here. It will come inside a folder called Content Drive, and then you could move your files into that folder. But for most of the exercises we're going to be doing, because this is going to be followed immediately by an introduction to Python, and we'll be using the Google Colab, which means you can follow along in the examples. So please, the moment you finish watching this tutorial, go and open up your copy of Google Colab so you can follow along in the other exercises. Most of the time, the default settings you have will be sufficient. But if you want to run some more powerful applications, which you will when you start getting into data science, then you want to change your runtime. Now, if you click on Runtime and you come down to change runtime type, and you see, first of all, here we have got the CPU. The CPU is what comes by default, and that's probably what you've got on your PC or on your Mac. We can now go to the GPU, which stands for Graphic Processing Units, and the GPU is much more capable of handling things like machine learning, data analysis, scientific stipulations. And then, of course, you've also got the TPU, which stands for Tensor Processing Unit, and the strength of this is considerably more than your GPU or your CPU. But at the beginning, we will just be using the CPUs. That will be more than sufficient. When we start looking at things like AI, then we'll probably have to go to the GPU. And Google gives you all of this for free. Of course, there is a paid version, and the reason why the paid version is there is because this is allocated on availability. So if you're using the free version, and I've been using this and it's been more than sufficient for doing these tutorials. So if you're following along in the tutorials, you don't need to get a paid version, okay? But if you are doing much more heavier applications, then it would be worth paying for it. And you can look at their payments under the runtime, and they are not that expensive, in my opinion. Okay, let's come on to AI and Colab. Recently, Google has included AI in the Colab, and that comes in exceptionally handy. Now, if I were to come into another code cell, and by the way, you can get rid of some of your code cells if you've got a lot. So if I click on that, I can simply go delete. Okay, click on that, delete. So you can make more space. Let's click on this one too and delete. Now in your case, when you make things, you don't necessarily need to delete them, so you can keep them as references. Okay, so, and I'm going to delete one of these too, right? So now I've got one code cell left here, and I am going to show you how the AI works. Now, notice in here, you would have been seeing this generate with AI. So if I click on here inside the code cell, that would appear automatically. So the first way you can do is you can use it to generate code. Click on that, and I am going to say, ask user for a number and print to screen. So ask the user for a number and print to screen. Now remember, this is only taking questions relating to Python, so it's going to do it within that context. And here we are, it's asking the user for a number, and it's having the number printed to screen, and it's also got an error checker built into it. So that's pretty good. So let's try this out. If I want to run it now, enter a number, I'm going to say 23. You enter 23. So that's good. It's done what we've asked it to do. So that is the first way where you can use it to generate code. You can also ask it to explain code to you. So let's come and do another one. I'm going to create a new code cell, and I'm going to generate, and I'm going to say ask user for their name and print to screen. And here we are, asking for their name, it's printing it to screen. and that would work. But I want to show you how it can explain code to you. So I'm going to change this code a bit. If I say to ask it for a name, but I'm going to change this to a number. So I'm going to ask the user for a number, and I'm going to say, what is your number? And then it's going to print the number that they have. And I want it to add 11 to the number. Okay. So let's go. If I say, run, what is your number? 2. And I get an error. And what you can use AI to do here now is to explain your code, explain your error. So if I say explain error, and it's going to think about it, and it will give you an answer. That's very handy. I don't need to read that out now because I know what has gone wrong. I am going to come back here where it's asking us for a number. If you're asking for a number, you do need to use the int function to change the input it sends you back into a number. So that's what we've done there now. I'm going to clear the last running, and now I'm going to run this again. What is your number? I say 21. Now it's added 21 plus 11. So that's how that works. And finally, when it comes to the AI, you've got the chat. You can see down here, you've got chat. Now, if I were just to close this tab, if you wanted to get to the chat within Google Colab, see where it says Gemini. Gemini is what sponsors the chat. Click on that, pops here, and you can ask it any question about Colab or anything to do with Python. You can ask it any question with regards to Python or Colab. Very handy indeed. Let's close that down. So that's how you close that tab to get some more space. Now, for those of you that like using shortcuts, if you come down here, you see where it says command palette, you click on that, and here you can get a list of the command palettes that you can use. So if I were to type in here, run selection, okay, you know, when we're running individual selection, there's the keyboard shortcut for it. So if you like using keyboard shortcuts to do things, so where I was clicking and selecting, you can simply select what you want to do, what you want to run, and then click on Control, Shift, and Enter. So that's on the command palette. And finally, as I bring this to an end, let me talk about the Scratchpad. Now, when you're just playing about with Python, you may not always want to start a new notebook because then you're going to end up with loads of notebooks as I have. So Google has introduced something known as Scratchpad, which is a notebook which has got the name Scratchpad, and you can write your code in there, but the moment you close it, everything that is there will be deleted. And how you get to that is simply, easiest way is to do Colab Google, and then in front of that, just put Scratchpad. Okay, Scratchpad. And as long as you are already logged into your account, see there it is, Scratchpad. When you click on that, it will bring you back into your account with a code tab open, and you can start running your code. So it looks exactly the same as a normal notebook, but it already got the name Scratchpad. And anything you do here will not be saved, nor will it be saved to your Google Drive. So this is just for playing about and for testing. It's an ideal place to come to. It's always given the name empty.ipymb. Okay? So there we are. That's our introduction to Google Colab, an excellent tool. It's getting better and better all the time. I'd strongly advise that you use it. If you have liked this lesson, please do click on like and please do subscribe, and then follow us along as we now go into an introduction to Python using Google Colab, which means you'll be able to do all the exercises and follow along. Please do. Thank you very much.